What's the major key to breakthrough? What's the major key that will lead to a breakthrough for you and your client? What's the major key to your breakthrough? And this is going to give you insight. This flip chart. What's the major key to your breakthrough? Right now you're here. What's your major key to your breakthrough? Awareness. Absolutely, you need to have awareness of your problem. And once you do, what's the major key? Because you're aware of the problem, so you're going to focus on taking action. Yeah, that's part of it. Relationship and trust, they're all important. The answer that I'm looking for is focus. Because if you stay focused on the problem, you won't take action. If you stay focused on the problem, you won't have any trust or build any trust relationship with anyone to actually allow them to help you. So focus is the key. So you want to help the client think about where they've been focusing on. And for you, as you think about your problem, you're about to enter the woods. Is that right? You're here. You're entering the woods. This gap between where you are now and where you want to go, it's the woods. It's the dark night of the soul that you're going to enter into. Isn't that right? And you go on this journey. What would you need before you enter the woods to get through it? What do you think you need? To be able to enter the woods, what would you need? We had an interesting question. A map, saying Dr. Ram, yeah? Some people said a compass. Some other people say food and water. All those things are important. I love this quote from Brendan Burchard. He said this: the time you want the map is before you enter the woods. Many people go to a professional to get the map after the problem. So I want to share with you, and I got this from his training and I've evolved it with some things, 5 things. And this goes to mindset, your inner game, your thinking. And I want you to take these things and integrate them as part of your neurology and as part of your belief systems. Like this is, embody them. No matter what happens in your life, whatever area in your life, when you think about your problems, if you understand these 5 things will help you navigate the woods of whatever your problem is. I call these things 5 things to focus on in order for you to thrive. What are the 5 things that we can share with you right now as tips? What are the 5 things that you can focus on in order for you to thrive? Would you want to know the 5 things? Step number 1, I want you to take on this law, or this belief, or this way of thinking. Never let your past circumstances limit your vision for your future. Just because it happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen again. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it can't happen. Isn't that right? It's what if turn left or what if turn right. You choose. What are you focusing on? Remember we said yesterday's history, that's the past. Tomorrow is the future. Most people are getting caught up with their sadnesses, the hurts of the past. Well, if you want to live a bright future, you need to let them go. How do you do that? And I want you to understand that the power right now is in the present moment. The power of now. But I want to debunk that. Because Eckhart Tolle wrote the book, The Power of Now. Some of you have read it, isn't that right? What does the power of now mean to you? Let's just get some awarenesses here. What's the power of now mean? Be present, and then what? Present moment, and then what? What's the purpose of being in the present moment? To act. Love it, Ryan. Understand the power is in the present moment. That's what that means. People think the power of now means just be present. I'm just in the present. I'm just going to be in the present and allow life to flow through me. Well, you can be a jellyfish and just go with the flow. You might just end up beached on some place you don't want to be. I don't think the power of now means just to be present. It means be in the present moment and know that the present moment is where the power is. Is what you choose to do in the present moment will determine your future. So in the present moment, are you bringing back the hurts of the past, the experiences of the past, and replaying that pattern? Or in the present moment, are you bringing your future self into now and saying, who do I need to be in order for me to be able to have the things that want my life? Only two things will change your life, guys. You can either have something new come into your life. And most people, they're here, right? They're in that comfort zone. And they just do all they know. And they think this is what they should do, should become, because that's what they've learned, and that's their culture, whatever the case is. But deep inside, they just don't feel right. You know, there's a moment in your life when there's something inside that doesn't feel right. Like you're stepping out of this and you're saying, even though that's what I'm supposed to do, that's how I grew up, it just doesn't feel right for me. Has anyone ever been there? Like in your soul, you just know it's not you, but you don't know what to do, so you just come back into that comfort zone. You put your head in the sand. And once you realize that things aren't quite right, you know you can't ever go back. Because you're here, you're going, that was okay, but right now I just don't feel right. But I don't know what to do. I'm paralyzed with fear. So I just go back to what I knew best and put my head in the sand. In that moment, the universe will give you a little nudge. You need to push. You're not paying attention. It'll give you a kick up the backside and you end up over here. Your life has crashed. Just last week, everything was okay. Just last year, everything was okay. I had money in the bank, I had a relationship, I had a job. How did everything fall to shit and I'm here right now? How did I get here? It didn't happen overnight. You missed all the signs. The self-doubt. If you're in self-doubt right now, celebrate it. Because you know self-doubt is the first stage of personal growth. Who's in self-doubt right now? Awesome. First stage of personal growth. Because that means you're outside of your comfort zone. This is how you do things. And you're saying, you know what? That was okay, but there's something missing. Are you with me? There's something I'm feeling is missing. And the more I avoid it, I close my eyes, I can hear this noise getting louder and louder and louder in my head. And I close my eyes, I can see a bigger, better, brighter future, but I don't know how to get there. The more we avoid it, put it in the sand, our body goes into chaos. We can't go back. It's called chaos theory. And we get to a point in chaos theory where we crash. This is the moment of truth. This is the bifurcation point. In quantum physics, it's called Prigoggine's concept. You get to a point where you think, oh my God, how did I get here? Either two things will happen here, guys. Either you do nothing and you continue to wither away into the darkness and disappear, or you make a decision to stand up. You discover something else inside of you and you evolve. See, you were here and things weren't quite right. Sometimes people are here, they're waiting for stuff to happen outside of them. We're waiting for things to happen outside of us because when that happens, my life will be okay. And sometimes stuff happens outside of us. Sometimes we get an inheritance. Sometimes we win the lottery. Sometimes an opportunity comes our way. We meet someone and it rattles us to get out of the cage and life changes, but we haven't changed inside. We end up getting back over here. Isn't that right? Ultimate change happens not when something comes to you, but when something comes from within you, here. Because in this moment, that's when you break through In this moment, that's when you rise up. You go to a program, maybe a 7-day program, I don't know. You learn something about yourself. You break through. You watch a movie, you spoke to a friend. Your friend got you into a program. I don't know what happened, but at that moment, you chose to rise up and say, hey, there's something better for me. And when you get to this point here and you're broken through, you look back to where you were and no longer you blame, no longer you point the finger, but you are blessed and grateful that that happened to you, because that is what you needed to go through to get to where you are today. And knowing that now, you're here and you know you can move forward to your next step of your evolution. You were here, you're caught into comfort zone. You had a breakthrough over here, you evolved over here, and you continue to grow over here. That is a universal state indicator. It's the way we go through our journey. So rule number 3, common sense is not always common practice. Just because you've heard it, just because you know it, doesn't mean you are living it now. Isn't that right? Common sense is not always common practice. Let me explain to you what I mean. Now, I want you to repeat after me, right? So finish your sentence. Common sense is not always. So scream it out loud. I want to see you scream it in your room. Don't need to hear you. But so common sense is not always. 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 So how do you make common sense? With common practice. Now's the time that you need to create new habits. You got your old habits, you got new habits. We know it, but unless we practice it, we won't create the neurology to install the new behavior. How many days does it take to create a habit? Anyone know? Tony Robbins says it takes a second to make a decision to change a habit. I agree. It only takes a second to make a decision to change it. But how long does it take you to change it? You know, the latest research, there's a lady called Susan Ladley, University of College of London, and the research shows it takes 66 days to create a habit to automaticity, to where it becomes neurologically automatic. 66 days. The 21 days was a term that was put together in a book back in the 60s. There was a doctor that did some research on people who actually lost their arms and limbs. How long did it take to actually, for them in surgery, for them to get used to not having the arm or the leg? It was about 21 days. People thought it took 21 days to get used to something. But it wasn't necessarily on habits. Susan Ladley did the research. And if you read the book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, he'll talk about the components of creating a habit. 5 things to thrive. Number 1, never let the past limit your vision for your future. Number 2, only 2 things are going to change your life. Something new will come into your life or something new comes from within you. And number 3, common sense is not always. Which leads us to number 4. The power plant doesn't have any energy, it generates it. And that's important. The power plant doesn't have any energy, it generates it. What does that mean? Any ideas? The power plant doesn't have any energy, it generates it. So when people say, where do you get all your energy from? You don't have it inside, you generate it. How do you generate it? This is what NLP is about. It's all state control. You control your mind, you control the state of your mind. So the state that you choose to put yourself in will control your energy. Do you know we got an amazing piece of, well, not only hardware, but software up here in our brain. Our brain has got the ability to release a pharmacy of mastery of specific hormones or neurotransmitters that do so many things for our healing and for energy levels. If we can bottle these things and patent them, we'll probably be billionaires. What do I mean? This is, imagine a pharmacy of mastery was releasing in your brain right now. Do you have your daily dose? D-O-S-E. How do you create your daily dose of these hormones? How do you get your dopamine hit? Most of the young ones do it this way. Dopamine, they get on their phone and play the games, isn't that right? Dopamine hit. How do you get your oxytocin hit? How do you get your serotonin hit? How do you get your endorphin hit? You know, dopamine is the reward. You know, you feel rewarded. Oxytocin makes you feel loved. Serotonin is a stress buster, and endorphins are pain killers. Do you know that your brain can release a chemical BDNF? Write that down, BDNF. It's called brain-derived neurotropic factor. And James Rady, Harvard professor, has done the research on it, and he says it's the miracle fluid of the brain. They've shown that BDNF can repair neurons that have been damaged the day before from stress or a stress response. Wow. Imagine repairing neurons from stress. What would that mean? What would the implication be? How do you release BDNF? Anyone know? BDNF is released, the research shows, exercise when? Every morning. If you sweat in the morning, you release BDNF. People say, I do my yoga, I go for a walk, great, but you need to sweat. When you're exercising, you're sweating for 20, 30 minutes, first thing in the morning, you're releasing BDNF. It repairs your neurons from the day before. You can slip into a pharmacy of mastery. So how do you do this is the question. How do we do this? Simple. How do we do it? Here's how we do it. So this was me back in 2019 at the High Performance Live. That's Bernard Bouchard there. Maybe you've seen him online. So we need to control our state. So we want to get you in the right state. Isn't that right? And I want you to think how important that is, because every time you're about to go have a meeting with someone, a conversation with someone, a loved one, a friend, a client, if you put yourself in this state before that meeting, will you not be performing in a better position to perform it as your best self with that client? Would you agree? Of course you would. Your job, guys, in any situation when you connect with people, your job is to bring the joy. Your job is whenever you meet anyone, or any interaction you have with anyone you meet in the street, anyone you meet who serves you a can of drink or coffee or whatever the case is, leave them feeling better for your interaction. If that's the way you live your life, you're creating ripple effects of change. Small little ripple that turns into a tsunami of positivity on the other side of the planet. And it started from the way you decided to show up. Is it making sense, guys? So number one, 5 things to thrive. Are these useful, these 5 things? Think about them. They're laws of life, where if you've got a problem in your relationships, okay, never let your past dominate vision for your future. Am I letting the past control me today? Just because that happened, is it going to happen now? Okay, then I make me a different decision today. Or only 2 things are going to change your life. Am I waiting for something to happen outside of me? Or is this helping something new come from with me? Common sense is not always common practice. Okay, so maybe I've got to do something different. Power plant doesn't have any energy, just generates it. Okay, maybe I need to bring the joy in this situation, right? And number 5, the one thing that has the domino effect to create change is this. Number 5, adopt the role model mindset is the first domino of change. It starts with you. Your job is to take on a leadership role, to become a conscious leader. And if you want to be in this field of therapy, coaching and healing, how do you master your craft to be able to help people to get the result which they want to achieve? Here's a quote. Being a role model is the most powerful form of educating someone, from John Woden. People don't necessarily do what you say, they do what you do. You learn that with your kids. Isn't that right? They don't necessarily do what you say, they do what you have done. Oh my God. That's a wah, 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 wah. So, adopting your role model mindset looks something like this, right? Your kids will do what you do. Well, they'll look like you. They'll dress like you as well. They wear the same ties. Oh, my God, is that creepy? I don't know. How do you achieve this is the question. How do you achieve this? How do you step up as a role model mindset? And here's going to be a question that I want you to think about. The ultimate secret to growth is finding something worth fighting for. This is your North Star. This is the reason why you get up every morning. This is how you reconnect to your purpose, how you re-energize yourself, and how you reinvent yourself to re-engage in the game of life. So I want to ask you this question. It's a big question. If I said to you, who would you die for? That's a simple answer, isn't it? Most people would put, I would die for my kids, I would die for my partner, I would die for my loved ones. Because of the emotional attachment, the love that you have for the people important to you, would die for them. Is there anyone here that probably wouldn't die for their loved ones? Let me change the question, because it's an answer. The answer is easy if I said, who would you die for? What if I asked you, what would you die for? Not who. What would you die for, guys? I want you to think about that. What would you die for? What would you stand for? Something that would you, if you had to give your life for, is there something that you would do, stand up for? Because if you stand up for nothing, you fall for everything.